Classic discussions of the state versus non-state societal outcomes usually involve static comparisons. They ignore the changes that occur systematically with the passage of time. For example, a Hobbesian or Lockean account stipulates that in a state of nature, which has no governing state, a great deal of disorder prevails, and adoption of a state brings about a more orderly condition. Analysts recognize that the people sacrifice some of their liberties when they adopt a state. Hobbes goes so far as to suppose that the people sacrifice all their liberties to an omnipotent sovereign in exchange for his promise to protect their lives. A ruler always assures his victims that their loss of liberties is the price they must pay for additional security and order he purports to establish. Well might we question whether the ruler has either the intention or the capability to reduce the degree of social disorder. Plenty of evidence attests that state-ridden societies boil with disorder. In the United States, for example, a country brimming with official protectors of every imaginable stripe, the populace suffered in the year 2011, according to figures the government itself endorses, which are certainly understatements, almost 15,000 murders and non-negligent manslaughters, more than 83,000 forcible rapes, 354,000 robberies, 751,000 aggravated assaults, and more than 9 million property crimes, such as burglaries, larcenies, and thefts. The governments of the United States have taken the people's liberties. If you don't think so, you need to spend more time reading U.S. statutes at large and the Code of Federal Regulations, not to mention your state and local laws and ordinances. So they've taken the liberties, but where's the protective quid pro quo? They broke the eggs of our liberties without a doubt, but where's the bloody omelet of personal protection and social order? Where? Suppose we concluded, if only for purposes of discussion, that the initial establishment of the state reduces the degree of social disorder. The obvious question, however, seldom asked by philosophers, then becomes, what happens next? Does the degree of social disorder remain constant? Everything we've discovered in theory and by observation flies in the face of such constancy. In fact, the likely progression over time is that under state domination, social disorder tends to increase. This tendency exists because the state attempts in countless ways to compel people to act against their perceived self-interest. And people respond by resorting to all sorts of evasions, black markets, and officially defined crimes. Consider, for example, what happened when the state ordered people not to make, sell, possess, or consume alcoholic beverages or certain narcotics, namely black markets and crime galore, including countless assaults and murders. Of course, the state's orders to pay stipulated taxes or fees have given rise to a plethora of evasive measures, some of them carrying violence against persons or the destruction of property in their train. Perhaps equally important, the state's concentration of its police forces on tax collection, enforcement of victimless crimes, and other measures at odds with the people's perceived self-interest diverts those forces from making any more than a token attempt to protect people against such everyday crimes as murder, rape, robbery, and fraud, whose prevention the people actually value. Over time, the social misallocation of the state's protective services grows as the state itself shifts more and more resources toward the enforcement of laws adverse to the people's genuine interests, and as the people make moving targets of themselves in ways that augment the degree of social disorder. If the degree of social disorder in a society under the state tends to increase, then, even if the initial establishment of the state did reduce disorder, a time will come when the degree of social disorder will exceed that of a society with no state. If so, then, momentarily taking for granted the myth of a social contract, the initial bargain the people struck will eventually come to be seen as a pact with the devil, a bargain that at best held advantages in the short term, but proved to be a disappointing deal all around in the longer term.